business ideas that I don't know if it'll come to fruition, if it's even a good idea, but I remember being so sleep deprived. And with autistic children, they wake up in the middle of the night and they don't sleep. And so these parents are really tired.
Totally.
And I always wanted to do just a little in a shopping mall next to the grocery store where it's like, there's like maybe 4 massage rooms, dark rooms. You have someone come in, give you a massage. The children are in a center next to it, like a play area. And you have, you get to choose your essential oil. The rooms are soundproof. You get a 5-minute massage and you sleep. It's just a sleep center for parents. You know your kids are right there, they're safe.
Yeah.
And I would do anything to get just a good hour of sleep.
A sleep center for parents. Get a quick massage, relax. That's okay.
And just know your kids, because if someone came, you can say, okay, they can come to your house, you can take a nap.
All right. Hey guys, so today I have Holly with me. Holly was a Montessori teacher, and now she came to the dark side of occupational therapy. So what made you choose to do that, Holly?
I was working as a Montessori teacher in a toddler classroom, and I had a client or a child, they're children in Montessori classrooms. We don't call them clients. He was really smart, very sweet, but he really struggled to maintain attention to tasks, to follow the rules of the classroom, to stay in circle time. He was climbing on things, and he really wanted to be helpful, but it was really difficult to help him, and I didn't know what to do. Out of my 15 years of Montessori, I was not sure how to help him, and it really frustrated me. And so I wanted to look more into maybe helping the individual child, and so I looked into OT, and that's where it started.
Okay. So it sounds like Montessori didn't understand the regulation piece as much as OT digs into regulation.
Yes, and it's hard when you have 15 children and you have one who needs one-on-one. So that was the main thing. He needed a one-on-one help until he was regulated, and I wasn't able to do that with 15 children. I had one assistant, but Montessori is extremely involved in each child gets a lesson. Every 5 minutes you're going to each child. You don't have time to work with just one the whole time. So that's why.
Okay, so it sounds like you're one teacher with how many kids? 15?
15 to 20. It just depends on the classroom size.
Okay, and then you're bouncing between stations.
Yeah.
As opposed to a neurotypical school, you're standing in front of a stage talking to 30 kids.
Yes, and so you see a child with a need and you go over there. You're kind of just observing the classroom. Who needs help with this? I mean, they're toddlers, so they're not able to sometimes tell you what they want. So you have to really be observing and see who needs what at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, Montessori is really good at the observation piece. I think that's one of the correlations between OT and Montessori is that we both learn to observe just through different lenses, right? An OT might observe through more of a biomedical lens where it's I'm looking at their gross motor, I'm looking at their fine motor, I'm looking at and all these different subsystems. Whereas a Montessori teacher is more what would be the viewpoint of a Montessori teacher looking at a child?
Well, the main thing behind Montessori is we're following the child. So what's interesting them? If they're into cutting, what can I do to get more cutting exercises for them to do so they continue to grow in their fine motor? So it's mainly what does a child want? If a child wants to do math, we're going to do math that whole week. Obviously, we'll introduce them to other things so it's more well-rounded, but we're going to focus on math that week and just helping them find what they need. So that's kind of Montessori. And I feel that's with OT. So if a child comes in and they're into a certain movie or show or color, we try to cater to that, do everything with that to interest them. So I really like how Montessori and OT are really about following the child.
I really like how Montessori and OT for you are following the child. I don't know if you know this, but not all OTs do that. I've taken my daughter to an OT before who was just you're cutting the line, and she took her hand and did hand over hand. And some OTs, we get stuck in the framework of you have to hit these goals. You're here for a purpose. We're a medical team trying to get you well. And I think that one thing that I've learned from watching you is that that's not exactly the role that I want to take up. It's mad stressful to be I'm the person who's going to help you do this. And then to realize no, I'm not. You're going to learn this on your own and I'm just here to assist you. And then B, the kids just learn better when you let them kind of do what they're into and you feed their interests.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel if they feel you you're not pushing the pressure.
The pressure.
It's such a different thing. And so yeah, I'm into pirates. That day we're cutting pirates. We're doing pirate puzzles. We're looking at pirate crosswords. Like anything we can do with the pirate, we'll do that day. And the best thing is they don't always want to do pirates. Like they switch the next week, it's something else. So it's not like you're going to be stuck on pirates for most kids. But it fascinates me how they switch to other things. So I'm like, oh, we're not doing that anymore. But it's really fun for me because I can get really creative. I'm like, okay, how can I involve this in every single way? One of my favorites is dressing, because dressing is kind of frustrating for some of the kids. But I love that we like turn on music. We do like a runway show. We make it fun. Like anything we can do to make it exciting for the child and make them feel like they're the one leading the session is kind of how I run my OT.
Yeah. And who wants to get dressed when it's like, hey, put on your shirt.
Yeah.
Button it. You know, like the typical like parent model.
Yeah, but if we're gonna do a walkway runway show with some music,
Heck
I'm
yeah.
all about it.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Another thing that you do different than like a typical OT is the way that you have conversations with the kids. I've noticed, like, I learned this from reading the Montessori book, that you don't say good job very often. It's different ways of letting the kid know that they're doing a good job without just saying good job. And dude, I have tried over this last week to like unprogram myself, but I'll be like, good and then I'll think about it. Okay, how could I reword this? And the more Montessori approach would be more to say like, and you can go more into this obviously, but it would be more something like, wow, that was really hard and you did it.
Yeah, it's interesting because my trainer for OT, she used to get really mad at me when they would reach a goal and I went and go, yay! So there's a fine line because sometimes autistic kids need that. I'm trying to find it, but the main thing is you want them to find their sense of accomplishment within themselves. Right. So if I'm saying good job, I'm letting them know that they're doing a good job because I'm happy. But I want them to be happy because the only way they're really going to achieve anything is it's within themselves, right? So I will say, oh, I see, look how you did. You must feel so good about the way you did that. I try to really pull all up from them. But at times there are, like, I have someone who's nonverbal. So of course, like, we're like, yeah, because I'll say those things, but I'll also, she gets excited. So you follow the cues, right? Mm-hmm. Like my nonverbal, she gets so excited when I get excited for her. So it just depends on the child. But I really try to make sure that it's not me, it's them. And that kind of goes into feeding a little bit. Like I've learned so much about feeding because feeding is so hard and we want to force the food on the child, but you can't force that. And so you're trying to get them to be able to want to do it on their own. And so it's a whole nother realm of figuring that out where it's all about them and not about us and what we want.
Yeah. Is it a win if they eat the carrot, but then like they're leaving traumatized for eating the carrot? Is that really the win, right?
Is it a win if they projectile vomit on you after they eat the carrot? It is not.
It's not.
One of my like saddest stories is I was just learning as a food therapist, pretty new, and I'm still pretty new, but I had a child who didn't eat chicken, but they said, oh, he's starting to eat the skin. So I wrapped little pieces of chicken in the skin and I got him to eat like 12 bites. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so amazing. And then the next week his dad said, yeah, I threw up everything next morning. And I was like, oh. So I should have done like maybe 1 or 2 pieces because his body wasn't ready. He hadn't eaten that much chicken. No matter, I did it, I got him to eat it, but he wasn't ready and his body wasn't ready. So that was a big learning experience for me, pushing things and forcing things. Even though he was happy to do it, he wasn't crying, he did it on his own. There's a pace and there's a timeline for everything.
And I like the wording specifically that you just chose. You said, I got him to, right? And now that you're a little farther on your feeding journey, I don't think that you're saying, I got the kid to eat. You're more saying like, the kid chose to eat or something like that. Because really, I found with feeding, like, it's about letting them explore more than anything, which is why I love that what you've been doing for your homeschool thing, how you're taking ESA and you're saying, hey, let's cook with these kids. Because so many of the kids that we work with, their parents don't cook that often. And sometimes it's socioeconomic, like they just can't afford to cook. Sometimes it's just like know-how, like their parents didn't cook, so how do I cook, right?
Yeah.
And so like some of these kids, like I've showed them like the oven and they're like, that's not a microwave, dude. I don't know what you're talking about right now. And so you got to start small, but dude, kids light up when you're like, here's a carrot. Let's cut this thing up and throw it in the oven, see what happens. Like,
Yeah, they love it. Well, the main thing for me, I love being in the kitchen is because it shows independence. If you can cook yourself some food, you're ahead. You can take care of a basic need.
Yeah.
And then you feel independent, you feel confident. That's what I spent my every summer. We would just cook all summer. My friends, my neighbors would come over. We'd make taffy, we'd make cookies, we'd make pasta. We would just cook. And it was such a fun summer memory. And I just felt so like empowered that I was able to do things and follow a book, follow a recipe, and just create something.
yeah, that's cool. Let me pull a quote for you here. I gathered a bunch of Montessori quotes and I wanted to get your opinion on them. We're not our children's boss or teacher, we're their guide. We set the world up in such a way that they can make discovery. Now, when I read that, I thought back to OT school and we talked about the PEO model. Did you cover that in CODA school?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, so you got your person, environment, and occupation. And you're like, okay, I can modify the person by setting them up a certain way. I can modify the environment just by setting the right things out. And that's what they're really talking about here is they're talking about, well, like, how could you set out an environment to help your kid? And so when I start thinking about feeding and I start thinking about the environment, I start thinking about like, hey, we can get these child-safe knives and like how big that's been just to have like the equipment available for my kids to cut. Dude, they'll run to the drawer now and they're like, you need help cutting that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, I would actually love the help. And they're like this or like this, you know?
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Montessori, like my dream job would be to go into a home and set it up, and for autistic children also, but to go in and set it up so they have their little station, so they have things set out. Like one of the cool things at Montessori is, let's say we have a cookie making station where it's like oats, banana, a little bit of sugar, oil,
Yeah.
and raisins. And so you have everything set up. It's all pre-measured. Everything's out on a tray. So you're taking away a lot of the work for them. All they need to do is come, mix it, put it together, and so it's set up. So the environment needs to be really simple for the children, especially for autistic children that get overwhelmed. Their senses, depends on a sensory seeker or not, but they can get really overwhelmed. So you try to make things very basic. You try to create an environment that's beautiful, but that they can access and not be overwhelmed with. So I would say go into the homes and create shelves of toys where it's very basic, very clear, there's not many things, and they're able to find a place for everything. Everything has a place, so it's just like set up. So one thing I've noticed, and you've noticed, is a lot of autistic children love order.
Yeah.
They really love order, and the parents will say, oh, they don't put things away at my house, but they do with you. And it's because they know the order. They know exactly where things go. And so I think a lot of people have like this toy shelf where they just shove things in a box. But if you have things laid out and there's a space for everything, it really helps create order for the child, and they love it.
You know, I'm just now realizing that I've gone into your room for over a year now, and the stack of games has always been in the same order.
Yeah.
For this whole year. Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would your dream job include more than just the kitchen? Would you want to like organize the play area too?
Oh yeah, the bathroom, the playroom, everything. Just so the bedroom, everything, so it's accessible for them. The main thing is you want these kids to become the most independent they can, and be the best version of themselves they can. That's why I love OT. Is we're trying to help them to become the best version of themselves in a way that they can, and accepting them for who they are is really important. Because there's levels of autism, and some parents really want their children to be a certain way, but I think if they can embrace them as they are and just build things around them to help them, those children would thrive.
That's huge, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, back to the environment thing, just setting things on a kid's level and like having things available to the kid in like an organized fashion, like here's your action figures, here's your cars, here's your paint stuff. Mm-hmm. And it can be hard as a parent initially to get them trained up on like, okay, I put this back here and this back here. But once you do it, like your headache's gone. It's crazy. It's like, oh, well, that little bit of short-term pain actually caused me like so much down the road that's just, I'm chilling now as a parent.
Yeah, and one thing I used to do is I wanted like all my books out in my kids' room, and they would just throw them everywhere. And I realized I'm picking up so many books. Like, have 3 books, rotate them, make it easier for yourself. Anything you do to make it easier for yourself as a parent, do it. So my children are raised like, we don't have a lot of stuff. We are minimalist. They have maybe like 1 stuffed animal. Like, I have a place where only pens are in the house, in 1 place in the house, papers in 1 place. We have everything in certain order, so exactly where you know it needs to be, and it's a less headache. So when my kids buy a new piece of clothing, they have to get rid of one. We keep very minimalist approach in our home, and it helps create less like mind clutter and just kind of a peace. And I think that would be good for autistic children too, just to have minimal amount of things.
I'm trying to ring up the name of the girl who she's like the clutter expert, and if it doesn't bring you joy.
Mary Kondo.
Yes, you're very Mary Kondo.
Yeah, she's awesome.
I have like 5 shirts, 5 pants.
Yeah.
Like I'm very like that too. But for my kids, I kind of have a hard time not spoiling them in a way. And I know a part of it is that I grew up like without money. So now I'm like, I have money. I'm gonna let them enjoy money. Like.
Yeah.
But I do see it in them that from time to time I go a little overboard and I'm like, I gotta pull back,
Yeah.
And it's true of everything. It's not just buying stuff. It's also like when you're giving them electronic time or when you're taking them out places. Like if you go out to eat at a restaurant every week, it kind of loses its appeal. So I've learned to like dial that back and be like, maybe they'll adapt if I over give things to them. So I need to pull back a little bit so they can appreciate the small things.
Yeah, and they will. And then parents will say, oh, my kids are so spoiled, they did this and they don't appreciate it. But you're the one who's given them so much and not taught them to appreciate it. And they don't even, your reality is not their reality. Like you grew up poor, they didn't. And so they don't even have a concept in their head about not getting the toy they want or not getting the food they want. So It's just, we create that for them.
Hey, off the record, me and Holly are gonna come to your house if you live in Arizona on ESA, and I was thinking about doing a sensory setup, right?
That would be amazing.
Because I got the whole sensory thing on my website, and they can order the stuff. But if I could go to their house and like show them like what would fit where and what their kid specifically needs, and then you could go in and Montessori the place.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Dude, their home would be set.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That's off the
do
record. All right, so another Montessori quote is, I love this. This was directly from Dr. Montessori, and for the record, she was like around in the 50s.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, she was a doctor out of...
She was the first female doctor in Italy.
Huge.
She was a big deal.
Yeah, first female doctor in Italy. And didn't they like give her special needs kids to work with? Because
she was a woman, they said, we're gonna put you in this, they called them the idiot savants.
Dang.
And so they put her in there and she noticed they were in the kitchen, at the eating area, and they were on the floor playing with the food, making balls with the food. And the worker said, they're so stupid, we give them food and they're taking off the floor. And she was noticing they were manipulating it. They needed something to do. They were craving any type of form of education or manipulation. They just wanted something, a sensory exploration. And so she said, okay, let me develop these materials for these children. And she noticed the materials she developed, they were doing better than normal children because they were such hands-on autodidactic materials. So much sensory was being provided through materials that they were excelling.
Yeah, okay, that's really cool. Okay, so this quote is, we must prepare our eyes to observe. We should draw a bead across a string every time we want to interfere, to practice being silent and motionless, to attend to things that are uninteresting because we don't know when they will become interesting. And it is hard to attend to something uninteresting. Today, she wrote this back before smartphones, I swear, because I'm so conscious about my smartphone use. I try not to fall down that road, and still my attention slips quite a bit. And so I will be watching a kid and just be like, are you gonna be interesting soon? Are you gonna be interesting soon? Just waiting for the moment. But it is really cool when you start taking that framework and you start applying it, because dude, like from time to time, you're like, oh my God, and you wouldn't have saw that. Like if you weren't taking that mentality of like, just sit and watch.
Yeah, one of my favorite experiences of that is I had a feeding client who was not eating, and I was really worried they were going to have to go to tube feeding because it just was getting scary. They were not gaining weight, and and they were little, and I told the mom to go sit out, take a break, because I could tell she was stressed out, and I didn't know what to do. Like, so I just sat there and I said, you know, I'm just going to observe. I'm going to observe, and I'm just going to sit here and not feel like a bad therapist or doing nothing, but I'm just going to watch. And I sat there, and all of a sudden the little baby started chewing on the backpack. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this baby has pica.
Yeah.
And so I said, hey, I think your baby has pica. He's chewing on everything, and that could be a reason why he's not eating. He's malnourished. He needs iron. And so she took him to the doctor. Sure enough, he had really bad pica and really low iron levels. So I was like, oh, observation is amazing. That helped me. And so he's able to start eating more because of that, because they're able to diagnose the underlying problem.
I want to double tap on 2 things from that story. The first is, if your kid has pica, iron. Check the iron. Because that happened to me too. I had a same story. A kid was eating dirt off the floor, got him checked for iron. They gave him iron. He started eating everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm a miracle worker. But all I did was look up the thing on ChatGPT, like what causes pica, right? So iron. And the second thing I want to double tap on is that you said that you felt like you didn't want to feel like a bad therapist for just observing.
Yeah.
Because there is this like feeling in our therapist heart of like, I'm supposed to help you right now.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be doing something. And observing isn't doing something, right? Especially if you're like the outside person looking at you.
Yeah.
Because you're just
sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had parents look at me like, is he gonna do anything? Like, but I'm observing, like, because that's really important that's like, in my mind, that's what separates the top tier therapist from like the lower tier therapist, is that they can sit and watch.
Yeah.
But you have to let go of that feeling in your heart.
Yeah, you do. And you have to let go of like the outcome having to happen that session or that month. Like, you have to realize there's a timeline for the child to progress. And us pushing does not help them. It creates more of a roadblock.
Yeah. Don't push too hard.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, as a male, like, that's one of my struggles, is not pushing too hard.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how males in your life were back in the 90s and stuff, but definitely like all the guys in my life were always just like, just go get it done. Like, is that a tear? Are you even thinking about having an emotion about this right now? Just go do it.
Yeah.
And it was very much like, and you know, in some ways that served me. Because
yeah, definitely.
Because like I've been able to just push through in like difficult times. I don't think I would have made it to the military and through all that if I didn't have that like mentality. But like, there's so much of me now that's like, I don't know, just letting go of things is hard, and it shouldn't be. And I know that my kids aren't gonna have nearly as hard of a time letting go, because like when they cry, I'm like, what's wrong? Like, how can I help you? You know, what a weird idea.
Yeah, no, I was I was extremely overwhelmed as a child. I was a sensory seeker. I had tantrums up till I was like 14. I needed help. And I remember my dad would just yell at me and get mad at me if I got startled. Any emotion I had, I was in trouble for. And so, yeah, I agree. Like, you got in trouble for not like being normal. And so that's why, another reason why I love OT is because I think, oh my gosh, if I had those tools, I would have been such a more calm child. I would have had a lot more self-esteem, because when you get upset at a child for their behaviors and emotions, it does hurt their self-esteem, unless you give them tools. And that's all I needed, was some tools to help calm my body and regulate. I didn't know anything about regulation. I just would spin out until eventually I would calm down.
Yeah, till you crashed.
Yeah.
My parents' emotional regulation tool was a lock.
Yeah.
They just locked the door. I used to kick the crap out of my door, and they would lock it. And then I remember specifically, I don't know why this just came to me, but I would kick my door for like 2 hours. And then they'd be like, "Are you done?" No! And it would like reset me. And so I'd do it again. And then finally when they let me out, I just wanted to eat.
Yeah.
And I was such a fat little boy because of that. Like, I think that food was like you know, it was my therapy.
Yeah. I mean, food was there for you when your parents' parenting was not there.
Right.
It really was.
You know what they were watching? Dr. Phil about parenting. It's like, what? Just do the parenting. What are you doing? Anyways,
Yeah, I heard Dr. Phil's kids are kind of rough anyway.
Yeah, they are. I've written a letter to my younger self. Have you done that?
No. Mentally I've done it, but not actually written it out.
I'm very much like, if it's on paper, it's real to me. So that I think that's why I had to write it out.
Yeah.
But man, writing a letter to my younger self was like so healing because it was like, because it was weird. Like, I felt like I was the parent to that kid never had.
Uh-huh.
And it allowed me to like grow up in a way.
Yeah. The Body Keeps the Score. He talks about that. That's one of the therapies. Have you read that book?
I haven't, but I need to.
It's amazing. He talks about how you go and talk to yourself. And when those things happen, you talk to yourself as your parent should have and would have.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole therapy about it.
Yeah.
So
how do you think about like, what are the words that you would say to a kid to help them understand their emotions better? Like say that a kid is 6 years old. I'll just take my son. He's 6 years old and he's crying because a situation's just a little too hard for him. For instance, this morning, there's dog poop in the kitchen. He didn't want to clean it up. Me and my wife are like, we just cleaned up the last 8. We are not. And so it's his turn. Like, he's big enough, he can do it, but he's just having a hard time. And he starts tearing up a little bit. Like, so my approach was, I was like, hey man, I took the Montessori approach, and I was like, hey man, I know that was hard, but guess what? You were strong and you did it. And just those words, like, he was like, and then he ran off, like he's like, all good.
yeah, no, I really do say that a lot to even my teenage children. Like, hey, you did the dishes. I know that was hard, and I really appreciate it. And it makes my life so much easier and everyone's life. Thank you so much. Definitely, like, the positive feedback you get after. And you want to do it after sometimes because while they're in it, it can like kind of tick them off. They're like, don't talk to me because they're in the middle of it. But I think after is when you do it. And anytime emotions are high is not the time to try to get in their brain.
Yeah.
You can step back and wait, and then you can say it later.
Yeah, that's something I only learned recently is like, for a long time, especially when my daughter was going through like sensory meltdowns, I would try to intervene. Like, I try and like talk to her when she's blowing up.
Yeah.
She doesn't hear me. She doesn't hear a word I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just like you gotta let them come down, and then once they're down, then you talk.
Yeah, one thing that's helped me is in thinking the way I would talk to an adult when I'm talking to a child.
Okay.
Like, let's say a child hurts their toe. You say, oh, stop crying. It's going to be okay. No, don't cry. I would never say that to an adult. Like, they get hurt, and I'm like, stop crying. You're going to be okay. Like, you would never say that. You're like, oh, dang, that sucks. I'm sorry that happened to you. So I really try to approach when I talk to a child as I would an adult that I respected.
That's a huge unlock for me, yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay. That's cool. Next quote. Or no, this one's a question. In culture, we've been told hundreds of times to put on our gas mask first. Yet, so many parents of special needs kids give to the point of exhaustion. Can you speak to your own learning of self-care? So in other words, like, we have a hard time as parents sometimes, like, not just giving.
Yes.
How have you learned to like give to yourself a little bit?
Okay,
And I know part of it's just your kids are older now, but
yeah, well, being a single mom has forced me to do that because there's no one else there to help me. So if I don't take care of myself, no one's going to take care of me. And there's a lot of guilt to it too. Like, sometimes at night, my child will say, Mom, can you get me a glass of water? And I've already been working from 8:30 to 7:30. I came home, made dinner. I was up at the gym since 5 o'clock. I'm tired. And they're 15. They can go get their own water, but it is like painful for me to say, please go get your water. I need to go to bed because I have to get to bed so I can be a good employee the next day and take care of my kids' needs financially. And so I know it's hard, but you have to figure out like, what can that child do and what can you do? And you can say it nicely, like, honey, I'm so sorry. I have to go to bed right now. Or I'm like dying. I'm like, oh, I should just get the water. I'm a bad mom. But if I do that, then I'm going to do something else. I'm going to do something else, and I'm not going to get to bed.
Yeah.
So, but that's kind of a really important thing that I feel like with special needs children is the parents don't get to take care of themselves. And that's what I love about OT is that we're about the whole family. So sometimes a parent will come in and it's OT for their child, but I'm going to give the parent a little more attention, a little more skills and training so they feel better about their situation. They might just need to vent for a couple minutes because that's also about the child. They need support. They just need to know someone hears them and is there for them. And that's what I love about OT is that we are not just for the child's writing needs, we're for the whole child, and the whole child needs their mom to be healthy too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I said in the sensory thing that I made recently, I came to the conclusion that like an hour of therapy and then going home to a bad home is, I'd rather just have them in a good home
Yeah.
than come to therapy. Like, and I think that's probably why you have the record of like most parents in session. Because
Oh,
like
really?
out
Yeah.
of our OT department, like you're definitely like, parents are coming back to Holly's session.
Yeah.
And it's just because like you're there for them too, you know?
Yeah, they need, and as a mom with young children, I remember kind of feeling crazy, and my children were neurotypical, and I felt like really overwhelmed, the emotions, the hormones, and I just wish someone would have told me, hey, can you please just go take your kids to the gym? They go to the daycare, you go to the gym for 1 hour. I don't care how much money it costs, you like sell an organ to do this because it's going to change your life. Not really, but like get creative, figure out a way to get a little bit of time for yourself. One thing my sister-in-law did for me that was amazing, she sent me money every month so I could have a babysitter for 1 hour, 3 times a week.
Wow.
Sometimes I'd just go sit in my car or I'd go swimming, and it literally changed my life because I got a little bit of a break. And these parents with autistic children, it's never ending. It's hard.
Oh, you're telling me? You've met my daughter.
Yeah, and so I just wish there was more of a support system for a group. I don't know if there's Facebook groups where people could take turns helping.
That'd
I
be a
don't know.
great idea.
I just really wish we had a community where people could just help them out, like just 1 hour. And that's why a lot of times too, I'll say, hey, I like you to come in, but why don't you go sit out in your car, just go veg out while I have some time with your child.
Yeah.
Come back next time, but I just need you to just take some time for yourself.
If we ever open a clinic, I would want like a parent lounge.
Yeah.
Like not like the kid area with the TV playing cartoons and all the loud kids, like just a little separate room for the adults, a massage chair,
Yeah.
some low lighting. You wait there.
Yeah, so
We'll take care of your kids.
one of my business ideas that I don't know if it'll come to fruition if it's even a good idea, but I remember being so sleep deprived. And with autistic children, they wake up in the middle of the night and they don't sleep. And so these parents are really tired.
Totally.
And I always wanted to do like, just like a little in a shopping mall next to the grocery store where it's like, there's like maybe 4 massage rooms, dark rooms. You have someone come in, give you a massage. The children are in a center next to it, like a play area. And you have like, you get to choose your essential oil. The rooms are soundproof. You get a 5-minute massage and you sleep. It's just a sleep center for parents. You know your kids are right there, they're safe.
Yeah.
And like, I would do anything to get just like a good hour of sleep.
A sleep center for parents.
You
Get a quick massage, relax. That's okay.
And just know your kids, because if someone came, you can say, okay, they can come to your house, you can take a nap, but my house is dirty, someone's at my house, I can hear my kids crying, I'm not gonna be able to sleep.
Yeah, and I'm self-conscious about, hey, this person's coming over, I
Yeah.
better make sure it looks good. And
Yeah, and so I was like, something like that would be just amazing, just because you get a little crazy when you don't sleep.
yeah, you think? I've
Yeah.
been there.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, it's a good idea. I think you're going to run into trouble with like how much it costs to rent out the physical
Yeah,
space.
that's why it's not really effective, but I'm like, if there was someone who had lots of money who could do it,
Yeah.
you know?
Hey, we'll work there, okay? If you guys want to set it up. No, but realistically, I think that the going to people's homes and setting up the sensory and the Montessori. I mean, I'd pay you to come to my house and set it up a little more Montessori style.
Yeah.
I've tried, but I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
have that brain.
Yeah, you have to, and I mean, there's lots of books, there's lots of Instagrams, people that have ways to do it and show you. So there's a lot of
But you've
resources.
got 15 years of experience that's just like,
Yeah.
right? So that's different. Last quote. If you say it, mean it. If you mean it, follow through. The goal is to build kids with self-discipline, not to create kids who listen when they're being watched. If you say it, mean it. If you mean it, follow through. I struggled with that a lot. And so when I read that, I was like, dang. Because like my first 5 years of being a dad, I had no, like, you just kind of walk into parenting and you're like, I don't really, like, what do I do? You know?
Yeah.
I didn't read a single book. I didn't watch a single anything. I was just like instinctually like,
I'm just gonna figure this out.
yeah, you know, I'm just gonna roll with the punches and figure this out. But like now knowing what I know, dude, if I just read like a book,
Yeah.
like the Montessori book that I just read, like, and took it seriously, that would have changed everything. And just the idea of like setting, now what I do is I set 3-month blocks. And I'm like, for these 3 months, we're gonna play by these rules. And I talk with my whole family. We have a little family meeting. These 3 months, we're gonna live by these rules and we're gonna see what we think.
Cool.
And then after the 3 months, we're like, so what'd you think, right?
I love that.
Yeah, and it's just so silly. Like, what an easy thing to do. The meeting takes like 20 minutes. I come with like the rules I want, because I'm prepared.
Yeah.
And someday my kids will come like, more TV time. They'll have their rules set up too when they're older, you know? But yeah, like if you say it, mean it, and if you mean it, like stick with it. Because like how much are the kids with autism, they need that structure.
Yeah, they do.
And man, is structure lacking because we just don't get taught as parents how to apply structure.
Yeah, that was the number one thing my mom told me. When you become a parent, you follow through with what you say. And it's been so important. So I don't make a lot of empty threats because I'm like, if I don't want to follow through with it, I'm not going to say it. Like, I'm not going to say, we're not going to Disneyland if you don't do this. I'm like little things, but I also tell my children like, and when I follow through with what I say and it's something they don't like because of their actions, I say, they are upset. I say, hey, you need to know there's one person at least you can trust, that you know that what I say I'm going to do. And you need to know that you can always trust me. And that's a really important thing. They need someone they can trust because life is hard and it's hard to know what is right and what's wrong.
But just for the record, they're probably not responding to you like, oh, thank you for being that one person in my life.
Oh, no, they're really mad, but I just keep reiterating, hey, you need to know. You don't have any, you have me, I'm the only one you have. So I need to be the person you trust. So I think it's really important, like you see all these kids having tantrums and meltdowns and parents say, we're not gonna do this, we're not gonna do that. And one of my clients, their mom just told me, she's like, I just realized I was doing that a lot and I stopped. And she said, it's helping a lot. And it's a lot of, one of my favorite stories actually is, there was a mom who said, I did this on purpose. We were going to SeaWorld. I had everything planned out, the food, the snacks, and I had told the kids a week before, if you don't do a certain thing, if like you fight or there was something they couldn't do, she said, we're gonna go home. So she planned on going home. She knew they're gonna go home and she didn't tell the kids that because she knew they're gonna do it. So she planned, like a big trip to SeaWorld, that's a big deal. And so the second someone started fighting, she's like, okay, we're going home. And they were losing their mind. They did not believe it. They got up, packed up, everything, went home.
Whoa.
And she said that changed everything because the next time to SeaWorld, different story. They were like,
of course.
yeah. So it was really cool. Like them seeing that she was really going to follow through, they learned that they needed to do it.
Yeah, we're not messing around here.
Yeah, but it's pick your battles. Like what can you really follow through on?
Yeah, and don't use it too often as a tactic because sometimes parents will be like, no ice cream after feeding therapy. And it's like, well, A, do they really need the ice cream after feeding therapy? That kind of defeats the whole, anyways. And then B, like just be strategic with it, you know? Like we did one recently, Lilo and Stitch just came out. And Wednesday of last week, we went to go watch Lilo and Stitch. But we told my kids on Monday, if you guys got 3 strikes. If you lose all 3 strikes for fighting with us or with each other, before Wednesday, we're not going. And it was Wednesday morning and they had 2 strikes and I could see my daughter just like, I love you guys. We're all friends here.
Yeah, and what is she learning? Self-control.
Right.
Self-control is, I would say concentration and self-control, the 2 things that we can help our child learn. And the way to concentration is not stopping them when they're doing something. Have you ever noticed a baby's like doing something and they're like, oh, you're so cute. Like, you just stop their concentration process. That's one of our big goals, is teaching these children to maintain attention to task. But we don't allow it. We stop it all the time, not even noticing it. So it's really important, attention to task and then self-control. That's harder to teach. I'm working on that with my teenagers. I've noticed I haven't done a good job on it. We're struggling with some things. But how do you teach self-control in OT? Like, what are some ways that you feel like you could start right away with younger children and with autistic children?
Okay, I don't try and teach self-control in OT like in session. I've never tried that. It's an interesting idea that we can explore like sometime when I'm not under pressure. But I do teach self-control to my kids a lot. And with Maya, what I do is like, say she really wants something, like she really wants to go over to her friend's house. I let her know like, okay, let's get these responsibilities done first. And so that's the self-control of like, I can get what I want, but first I have to do what I need to do. Mm-hmm. And then we'll do silly stuff like, I'll offer her chocolate after dinner, okay? If she eats all of her dinner, she gets dessert. We've always done that.
Yeah.
And, but there's no pressure to eat all of her dinner. Like, just if she eats it all, then she gets the dessert. But I'll offer her, okay, you can have this much, or you can wait 10 minutes and you can have this much. So she'll sometimes be like, I just want it now.
Yeah.
And then sometimes she'll have the self-control to be like, you know what? I'm gonna sit here for 10 minutes and stare and let my mouth water and just stare at this delicious food. Cause like, it doesn't go bad, right? It's not like hot food that cools off. So she'll just sit there and stare at it like,
wow,
just kind of salivating over it.
That's amazing.
So that's self-control. And then what was the other one?
Concentration.
Concentration. I don't let them do YouTube or YouTube anything short, like YouTube Shorts, TikTok, like nothing like that.
Yeah.
They're not on any of that. If they're gonna watch something, I let them watch movies, because movies are like a long plot story that you actually have to like follow along with. They meditate with me. It's like, we do the June app. I don't know if I've told you about this, have I? Mm-mm. Okay, the June app is it's an app on the iPad where you basically set parameters and then your kid earns coins for doing those things. So like getting ready in the morning all by yourself without any prompts.
Yeah.
Do it, you get 20 coins. She saves up her coins, she can buy stuff like a movie or electronic time or whatever, snack or whatever she wants. And so, see, my concentration's waning. So, for concentration, one of the things that she can earn coins for is meditating with Dad. And what I love to do is visual meditation with her. So like, just, because like, I heard from a neuroscientist on a podcast one time, his name's Andrew Huberman. He was saying on Huberman Labs that visual attention is linked to attention. So like, if you're able to visually lock onto something and keep your eyes on it, that is linked to like, how good can you attend overall? And that makes sense to me because visual processing takes up over 50% of your processing power.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. So that's when we focus on, is like, we put a focus rock down and we just stare at our focus rock. We try and lock on and we try and stay there for 5 minutes.
That's amazing.
Or we'll have a bell and you hit the bell and it'll ring for a period of time. And when the bell ends, you shoot your hand up. And that way you're like paying attention through sound. So that's my main concentration. As far as when they're younger, I think that concentration is mainly going to be a sensory thing. So like making sure they're getting the right sensory input.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, which is something I lacked on, right? Because I didn't read the books.
Yeah.
But if I could go back, I'd definitely like run a sensory protocol with my 3-year-old daughter.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's the episode. That was fun, Holly. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.